The gospel of the Lord.
When we talk about the Eucharist, we often call it the bread from heaven. And it is, right? You children have had to study this for many, many weeks, so you understand this. But that bread, what does it become? The body of Christ. What does the wine become? The blood of Christ. Now, you're too young for wine, but you're certainly old enough for bread. And the bread you ate yesterday or the day before, now that's become your body and blood. I don't drink much wine. I eat a lot of bread, more than I should actually. But even a little wine that I might drink within a few days, isn't it? It becomes part of my blood. But that's a natural process. This is a supernatural process. And the food you eat has an effect on you, doesn't it? There's some foods that are better for you than others. But the Eucharist, it's good for your soul. It's the church's jewel in the crown. The jewel in the crown. What do I mean by that? Of all the beautiful things the church has, the greatest, the most beautiful, should I say, is the Eucharist, where Jesus gives us his body and blood. You know how you look a bit like your parents? And if you don't yet, you maybe look a little bit like them in the future. You might end up prettier than them, better looking than them, you know. Unfortunately for me, it was the other way around. My parents were better looking than I am, right? But anyway, we look similar. Right? You're a bit like them because you've got a bit of their body and blood in you. By having the body and blood of Christ in you, you become a bit like him. And there's a power in there for good. But today's feast day in the church, we call it Christ the King. Pardon me, Christ the King. And a king, right, he wears a crown, doesn't he? And in that crown, there's always a jewel that's bigger than all the other jewels. And they call that the jewel in the crown. Of all the little stones and all the thing, that's the jewel in the crown. That's the big one. That's the main one. When the thieves come, that's the one they'll pinch first. What's the jewel in the crown for the church? It's the Eucharist. So you'll have Jesus in you. Talk to him like you would talk to one of your friends, like you'd talk to your parents, like you'd talk to your best friend, because he is your friend. And talk to someone who not only understands you, but he understands you better than yourself. You ever had your parents say to you, if you're in trouble, you know, and it usually only happens when we're in trouble, you know, you say, "Oh, no, you better than you know yourself." And you think, how's that even possible? And yet somehow they do, don't they? Somehow they do. Today is your first Holy Communion. Look at all those people. They're so excited. They would remember their first Holy Communion. So when you receive Jesus today, talk to him like your best friend. He is your best friend. And he hears every word you say. And he understands you.